Okay, welcome to Randolph and Martin's Friday Night Sports Talk. We haven't been on for a couple of weeks because of holidays and bits and pieces, and not really a lot to talk about. So tonight we've got the Euros, obviously the finals and the semis, and we can talk about the other rounds as well because we haven't really gone into that in the last couple of weeks. We've also got obviously the Wimbledon winners have just come through the ranks this weekend, and we've also got the Lions tour. How's it going, Matt? How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you, mate. Weather's brightened up nicely today. Digesting all the football action from over the last month. It's quite annoying, really, because my girlfriend spent an entire month moaning at me for watching football on the telly, and then England get to the final, and she's automatically super excited about the whole thing. Because I've put a bit of effort forward for Wales, love. But it's a home nation, I guess. So can't really complain.
I found that out quite a lot. You've got obviously when the football's on, or the rugby, mainly the rugby. I got the old Welsh flag in the window, and none of the other neighbours are really into sport. And it gets to England get to the final, and you start seeing some red and white crosses in the windows. And I thought first of all it was like the Red Cross, but somebody joined the Red Cross or volunteered, but it was an England flag. I thought that was a bit weird. But yeah, you got your part-time fans, haven't you? But come on to the Euros, and we can talk about that at length in a minute. I just wanted a quick one on the tennis. Obviously, the world number one won the female final. Barty. Obviously, Serena Williams was knocked out earlier on, and she hasn't been on top of her game, so that was no real surprise there. Obviously a little bit of controversy about the young English girl in she got through to the last 16 or the last 32 and was losing the final set or losing the second set, and she went off in breathing difficulties.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing something about that. It was
I'd like to be fair. I was watching it and it was a bit strange,
Yeah, I think did Marcus Rashford say something about that he's had something similar happen to him when he was playing for England under 16s or one of the youth sides. I think they're playing Wales or something.
You can't knock it, because it's just I suppose she was overawed. You've never come anywhere near that before. I think she had a wild card. She wasn't even. Yeah, she did because somebody spoke to me a few days ago about how do you get wild cards, and obviously she's an up-and-coming Brit. It's in the UK, so you're going to give a couple of wild cards to the up-and-coming Brits. You're not going to give them to the Yanks or the French. And fair play. She got through to round 4, and the pressure at that age. She's only young. She's done nothing anywhere near that before, and it's one of those things you can't knock her for it. Because I saw a few people on, idiots like Piers Morgan on Twitter saying you've got a man up kind of thing, and he's never played a professional game of anything in his life. He's not professional at anything. So to listen to crap like that, it does make you kind of a bit angry when you see stuff like that. So hopefully she'll come through stronger, and you see her back in a few major tournaments. She's obviously got the talent.
Definitely, it's quite funny Piers Morgan telling her to man up, considering he's the one who stormed off a set on live TV when someone told him they didn't like something he said on a previous day or something.
Yeah, a weatherman. When the weatherman called him out, and he walked off. So when the going gets tough, you walk off your own TV show and get sacked the next morning, I think, wouldn't it?
Well, you know what Arsenal fans are like, eh? So...
Yes. But yeah, so
a bunch, aren't we?
Obviously, she the Barty true to form won the females, but on the male side, obviously Djokovic got through to the final against Bartinelli, the Italian. I saw a little bit of it. In fact, I saw him come through the quarters, I think, and he, decent player. But to be fair, because I haven't watched all of it, there's not a lot really for me to say. I just think that he's up to 20 titles now, the same as Federer and the same as Nadal. So where would you? In terms of, you've got Sampras, they're winning more now because there's not, one, I don't think there's as much competition. And two, they're playing a lot more tennis now.
Yeah.
So the three of them have won 20 titles, which is obviously, it surpassed Sampras. Sampras won a lot of Wimbledon. You've got Borg. Obviously he won 5 Wimbledon in a row. You've got McEnroe. Where would you put these guys? But if they played each other now, all these guys from the past and the present, obviously you've got to take into things like McEnroe was playing with a wooden racket. Obviously Borg and them were playing with wooden rackets. People like Stefan Edberg, when it came to playing with graphite rackets, then it totally changed the game. So him and Becker, it was more of a case of boom, your serve down, then you're there for the volley and you try and win the point. So I think they fluffed the balls up in the last 10 years to try and make it more like the women's game where there was more rallies. McEnroe was, he was left-handed, so he'd cut the ball and he'd make angles and he would play ridiculous drop shots. His touch was amazing. So if you take all that into consideration, where would you rank some of these guys? It's a very hard question because I'll give you my take after, I'm asking you the question. What would you think? Where would you put these guys?
Well, for me personally, the ones you've mentioned, Federer, Nadal and Djokovic from this era, their names I don't really follow tennis that much, to be honest with you. It's probably because I'm not very good at it, like most other things at school. But these are names I've heard forever knocking about in the sport news after the regular news. And like they've won 20 titles in sort of probably about 10, 15-year span, sort of competitively playing against each other because they've all they've probably come into their prime at different times. I think is Djokovic a bit younger, Federer is a bit older, and Nadal is a bit older as well. So players, peak at different times. I think you could maybe throw Andy Murray in there as well potentially. I don't know how many titles he's won. I think the Wimbledon one eluded him for a while, but he did finally get there, and I think got the Olympic gold as well, didn't he? I'd say probably now, like with most sports, you could make the argument that the game's more difficult now because the skill levels have maybe improved with the added emphasis on sports science, nutrition, recovery after training and things like that. So maybe you could make the argument that players are better athletes nowadays. But yeah, I'm not really sure because you can always have that in every sport, the era to era debate, who's the best. But you've got to put especially Roger Federer up there. That's I think he's the one I hear most people talking about. As a bit of an outside fan, I don't really want to put too much, sort of go out and put a name out there without really knowing what I'm saying. But I'd say Federer is probably for me of the modern era, and then maybe someone like Boris Becker, Samaras, or even Andre Agassi from the earlier eras. But I'm not really sure before then, to be honest with you. What I would say though, I think Djokovic is on course to win. Is it the Gold Slam this year? That's when you win. Is it all 4 of the majors? So the Australian, French, Wimbledon, US. And then the US, and then the gold medal as well. I think, did you say before we started recording that Federer's had to pull out of the Olympics?
He's pulled out, and I've heard tonight now as well. Going off piece. Yana Conta, the Brit, she's pulled out as well.
Oh yeah. But yeah, if he can bring home that title in a year, especially sort of with the weirdness of what's been going on the last 18 months to 2 years, I think he could definitely put his name up there with Federer and all the others. But who would you say? Who's your favourite out of the bunch?
I think favourite is a different question.
Sorry, who do you think is the best out of it?
It's really hard to say. It's like, who's your favorite ever heavyweight? And people thought Muhammad Ali, but how would he have gone against Mike Tyson? How would he have gone against Anthony Joshua, who's like 4 or 5 inches taller? It's a tough one. The favorite would probably be an easier one, but on the best, I'd say I haven't looked at the breakdown of what Federer and Djokovic have done as in their 20 titles, but Nadal for me is a level below because I'm sure he's won something like 10, 11 French on clay. So he's only won about 8 or 9 on the other 3, whereas Federer's won Wimbledon, loads of times. Djokovic has just won it now for I think it was his 6th. They seem to glide across the court. They've got every shot, whereas Nadal, his game is completely suited to clay. I've played on clay a couple of times, and it's a really it's a weird one. You've got to, if you're running towards the ball sideways, you've kind of got to run quickly, and then you've got to slide, which you don't do it on the hard surfaces of Australia and and America. So it's like a different game. So I wouldn't put Nadal there. Federer, Djokovic definitely would be right up there. And then if you take their rackets away and go back to the wooden rackets, then McEnroe was unbelievable player, and even people like Ivan Lendl, he won the US Open. I remember him one year winning a £750,000 diamond racket. A racket. And back then, £750,000 dollars, maybe 20 odd years ago, was a boatload of money. But yeah, they're up there, and I would love to see, as you said, Becker and Agassi. Agassi. Djokovic booming down 130 odd mile an hour, and Agassi standing on the baseline trying to return it really quickly, which was kind of an art for him. So yeah, it's a tough one. Favorite, I loved watching Sampras when I was growing up, playing in Wimbledon. He was very similar to Federer. Used to glide around the court, and for me it was him or Jimmy Connors and McEnroe when they were playing together, and Borg in the mix. Whereas we're kind of lucky because you had them three playing together, and now you've got Nadal, Djokovic, and Federer. I wouldn't put Andy Murray anywhere near them lot, because I think he's only won. I think he's won 2 Wimbledon. He won Olympics, which doesn't count, as a major. I think he's won the Australian, but he's only won, but he's the most successful Brit of all time.
Yeah.
But he's a long way short of those other three. If he
I
come
only
along,
threw him in there because I was struggling for names, to be honest.
yeah. If he'd come along when there was maybe only Djokovic or only Nadal, then he might have won a few more. Because he's a very good player, the best Brit there's ever been. So you can't, you can't put that down. But you can't put him up there, I don't think, with Federer, because Federer, I think, was 36, and he's got a knee injury. That's why he's not in there. I'm just eating my food because it's a late one today. But yeah, so that would be it for the tennis. But I thought I'd just throw in the mix because there's a lot of them there now on 20. And you were right. I think Djokovic is a few years younger. He might be like early 30s, so he's still got a bit to go. And judging by his flexibility in Wimbledon when he's flying across court and doing the splits and coming back, and I'm sure that's part of his regime. Must be things like stretching and yoga, and so that will elongate your performances for a good few years. If but yeah, so that was the tennis. Euros then. May as well talk about Wales to start off with.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, to begin with, I think we can be quite happy with how we performed. We were given quite a tough group. I think we were the only Group A was the only group to have all 4 teams ranked in the top 30 in the FIFA World Rankings. So
Right.
to get out of that, and everyone can say in Turkey we're going to be a dark horse for the tournament. Didn't play too well, in fairness, but look how we performed against them. So if you look on it in a performance by performance basis, there's definitely some positives there. Sorry. I think in the Denmark game, we just everything sort of came to a point. The players were probably a bit knackered from all the travelling, but you can't really make that excuse for them. And I'd say the main thing that cost us the game was sort of Rob Page sort of being out chess manoeuvred by the Danish manager. He's not had loads of managerial experience. I think he's mainly managed teams in League Two. But to be the man to actually get us to the tournament, I think he had 4 games in charge in the qualifiers, or he had a couple of games to get us actually to the tournament, I believe. No, sorry, I think we'd already qualified when he took over in November. I can't quite remember, actually, because they suspended the football calendar, didn't they? But to get us out of that group with the performances we had in the first game, I think against Switzerland, we were really lucky to get the point. We didn't play well at all. We were sort of sitting too deep, trying to soak up the pressure. We allowed them to grow into the game, but took our chance from a set piece. When you've got a striker like Kiefer Moore in the side, he's always going to get goals from headers. Turkey game, as I said before, it was just a real complete performance from Wales. I think might be on par with the Russia game in Euro 2016. That's one of the best performances I've seen collectively from a Wales side in a while. Everyone was up for it. We just pressed from the front foot. They could not deal with Bale or Ramsey. You look at some of the chances he missed. I'm not trying to criticise Ramsey. I never would, being an Arsenal fan, but could have been 4, could have been more, but got to be happy with that. Considering some of the Turkey fans were giving it big and on Twitter before the game as well. Always good to shut people up. The Italy game, we just came up against the best side in the group, probably the best side, well, definitely the best side in the tournament by the end of it. I think to that point, they hadn't conceded a goal in 27 games, making that the 28th. So they were always going to be tough to break down. I think they did make a lot of changes to their sides. We were all quite worried about Spinazzola, and then I think he was out injured for the rest of the tournament. I think it was ACL that went. I'm not quite sure. So that was a shame because I thought he was one of the star performers in the first 2 games. But yeah, if Bale had have taken that chance, it could have been 1-1. I think Danny Ward overall has been our best player this tournament. You look at his performance against Switzerland and Italy, the amount of saves he made. I think they've started because they do that XG calculation now for expected goals. They've started doing one for expected goals prevented for goalkeepers. Throughout the group stage, Danny Ward had the most saves of any goalkeeper. He'd made 14 in 3 matches. And I think his expected prevented goals was like 3.77. It was over 3.5 though. So he was, if you say he's surely put himself in the shop window this summer. I think he did sign a 4-year extension with Leicester, January, February time. But that might be them protecting their investment in a way, or I just think that his performances in the Euros, he's not going to want to play second string to Schmeichel because he showed what a top quality goalkeeper he is. He's always going to get a bit of criticism being compared to his dad, but I think he's put a lot of that to bed with his performances this summer. But yeah, hopefully Danny Ward will get a move away. I just thought the way we went out was a bit of a shame, really. So losing 4-0. Denmark was certainly the better side, as I said before. We just got outmaneuvered tactically. The second goal still cheeses me off of it because I think it was definite foul on Kiefer Moore, but it was a couple of phases after, so that's why they said the VAR wasn't going to go back and look at it. You can make a case for the ball maybe being out, but I think that's just sort of picking at threads where there isn't any need to. I think the players just ran out of steam towards the end, and I think maybe we peaked a bit too soon in the groups because I think after not winning the first game, our backs, we got a point on the board, which was good, but your backs are always going to be up against the wall if you don't win your first game. So we had to come out and deliver a performance, and we did. But I think now there's a lot of hope for the future of Welsh football because everyone's saying, golden generation's over, Bale's on his way out, Ramsey's getting to that age. I think we only had 6 players left from Euro 2016 from that squad, and the youngest one's Ben Davis. He's like 28, maybe 29 now. So he's maybe got another 2 tournaments left in him if he can keep his fitness and injuries a bit more in check, because I know he's struggled a bit the past couple of years. But I think some of the young lads coming through, they've got a lot of promise. It's just about delivering on that now, because I think we've been touting Harry Wilson, David Brooks, Rabbi Matondo, a few players like that as sort of ones to watch for the future for a couple of years now. And they're getting to that age now where you've got to actually start delivering on that consistently at club level. I mean, the problem for them is sort of the level, Wilson's at Liverpool, but he's getting loaned out every year and he is playing quite a lot, but it's mainly championship teams. And I think he did all right for Cardiff this year, but a lot of Bournemouth fans, because he was on loan there a couple of years ago. I think it was the last year they were in the Prem actually, or the season before that. Seems to go missing for periods of games. Like he's a set piece specialist. He's a very technical player. He's got a really good left foot on him. Phenomenal free kicks. He bent that one in against City that I think was nominated for, I think, won goal of the month that month. But it's carrying those luxury players, if you call them that, in the team, and I don't think he justifies that with what he's done yet. But the year he had at Derby under Frank Lampard, I think it was under Frank Lampard, he was quality. Same with David Brooks, though. I think he's had a few more issues with injuries. I know he had a long layoff, didn't play much for Bournemouth this year, but again, another really technical midfielder, good dribbling on the ball, sort of quite similar to Johnny Williams, but a bit bigger and a bit tougher, so he doesn't pick up those little niggles. But I think he struggles with knee injuries, unfortunately. The only anything I'd say that really sort of concerns me going forward is the manager choice, because it's all still up in the air with Ryan Giggs and that.
Yeah.
I think Rob Page should be given the chance to get us to Qatar, but I don't want to be disrespectful to the man for what he's done for Wales and the character he is and being a former international for us. But I'm not sure he'd be the man to take this young squad and sort of build the foundations to push them forwards. But I think, he's a good man to have around the camp. He clearly knows the squad inside out. I think he's worked in the under-23s as well. So he'll have seen a lot of these players coming through. And, you look at Gareth Southgate did that with England, and they've got that relationship with the players and they sort of know how to motivate them and get the best out of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of, not turmoil, but stuff's up in the air at the minute with the FAW because there's no chief executive in place. I think Jonathan Ford's had the vote of no confidence March, April time. So I don't really know why that occurred, to be honest. They don't release these things to us mere mortals, do they? But he's, in terms of developing the brand of Welsh football and raising the profile of us and sort of that connection with the fans, I think he's done excellent.
Yeah.
But I think now we need someone who's going to sort of put the infrastructure in place to look to build that pipeline of talent coming through. We've got this generation coming through now that that I've just spoken about. And they've got another good crop of players coming through in the under-23s. I think Luke Jaffcott's the one I'm most excited about. He's only playing in League One at the moment. He had a bit of a quiet sort of spring to summer portion of the season, but he's a 21-year-old who bagged 16 goals in the league and then a few more in the FA Cup.
Right.
He's playing for Plymouth. He's pretty quick, good in the. I think he's quite tall, so he's decent in the air, good with both feet, so he's one to watch. He's had a lot of experience playing for the under-23s, but he hasn't broken through yet. You look at Ruben Colwell as well. I think he was like a Theo Walcott, Sven Goran Eriksson kind of pick. Just bring someone in for just that experience of being at a tournament.
Yeah.
And I think he had his first cap against France in the friendly. Didn't really look out of place, to be honest with you, for a 19-year-old lad. Bit like Jude Bellingham, doesn't look his age at all. He's about double the height I was when I was that age. But yeah, there's a lot of good things looking forwards. I think we should be happy with how we did this summer, considering we got out of the group. But we're getting to the point now where if we want to start being taken a bit more seriously, we need to stop just being happy to be there. In a way, we are getting to the point where we're having a decent crop of players coming through in every age group where we can put the building blocks in to have a decent national team and be more competitive with the larger nations. Because if you look, is it 8 or 10 years ago now, 117th in the world, below the Faroe Islands. I think we've moved up a bit now, so we're into the top 20 in the FIFA World Ranking. If that's impressive, I didn't think I'd ever see that watching Wales, to be honest with you. So can't really be. Did you catch many of the games? Or?
Yeah. It's a difficult one because Wales is national sport rugby, so it's never going to be. Obviously, it was a total one-off to get through to the Euro semi-final. Never happen again. When you look at that team, you had Bale, you had Ramsey, Joe Allen playing out of his skin, for the whole tournament. Robson Carnu, just scoring those goals where, he'd never done it before and he's never done it since. It was just one of those freak performances. Obviously I'm on about the Belgium game, but to get to the semi-final with, no disrespect to Wales, but they're more of a championship side than the Premier League side. You've got, and if you go up, obviously this one now, it's the same thing. You got Joe Allen. Yeah, you can throw, Dan James into the mix because he's a bit part player at United. You've got, the odd few players who are there or thereabouts in the Premiership standard, but same as Scotland. You've got 2 or 3, and then the rest are bit part players. If you take Bale and Ramsey out of the equation, one of Wales's assets is Dan James, and he played a handful of games this year. So when you're taking, you know, when you're putting the Welsh players up there on the pedestal, oh, Man United player, Dan James, but he's a bit part played for Man United, you know, from Swansea. And when you said, you know, the Wales got to got through to the Denmark game, lost 4-0, and they were tired. They were tired because to get to the quarterfinals or to get to a semi-final, you've got to play your best players. So if you compare them against England, which we'll go on to in a bit, but England's bench, all of them would have been playing for the Welsh side in every single game, and then by the time we got to the semis, they would have been tired. You know, so England not got your Grealishes, your Fodens, your Sanchos, your Bellinghams. They hardly played. You know, England's best 4 players were on the bench. You know, every game. So it is an excuse that Wales's guys were tired, because you can't get through to a quarter-final or a semi-final without Joe Allen playing for 70 minutes in every game, because there's nobody that is anywhere near as good as him as a ball winner in midfield. You know, Bale, bit part player for Spurs, started playing a bit more when Mourinho went, but, you know, he'd play 2 or 3 games, score 2 or 3 goals because he's a class player, but then has to miss a week because he's got to recuperate, because he can't survive playing week in, week out because of, well, whether it's his lack of fitness or his injuries or he's playing too much golf or whatever it is, he can't play. So if he's playing in the heat of, you know, Baku and whatever else they were playing, then it's going to be tough. And it showed. You know, he would have put that goal away against the Italians 97, 98 times out of 100. It was literally 7 yards out. It's coming down. That's all he had to do was time it. He could have hit it as well. You know, he could have hit it anywhere apart from where he hit it. You know, it's just one of those things. And Ramsey had a stormer. Like I said, Turkey were awful. They looked knackered after 50 minutes of their first game. So I was the same as you. I thought, you know, Turkey, dark horses, they've got some good players, but they were dreadful. So to beat them isn't really a benchmark. You know, to get a good result against Turkey wasn't a benchmark, I think, for Wales going forward. You know, 1-0 against Italy, as you said, they made 8 changes. So all of their top players, Inzaghi, Immobile, the guy with the, as you said, he got injured. I think it was his hamstring, I think. So they had, you know, most of their team. I'm not sure. I think either Bonucci or Chiellini, I think one of them played for the first half, but then went off. So they literally had their second string. So for us not to beat them or draw against them with our full side, because we needed, you know, we didn't need the point, but it was touch or go to get the third place. It kind of shows where we are. Just no strength in depth. But it's one of those things where a population of 3 million, it's a massive rugby nation. Football is the second sport. It might have changed around a little bit now, but I played out in Denmark a couple of tournaments in the late 80s, and you'd walk into a bank, 13, 14 years old I was, and you'd walk into a bank and there would be life-size Michael Laudrup cardboard cutouts, and on your carrier bags would be Preben Elkier and what's his name? Not Blomqvist, because it was before him. Morten Olsen was the captain, and all they were idolized. And it's their first sport out there, you know, in Denmark. They all, you know, they love the football out there. Not sure what the population is, but their football is like our rugby. You know, they love it out there. So, you know, I wasn't surprised that we lost, because they've got more strength in depth. They've got a lot of players playing, you know, all across Europe. We've got Bale in Madrid, you know, who's not there anymore, and the rest are playing in a lower standard. And you know, 95 times out of 100, you're not going to beat a team like that unless you get the freak result like we did it 5 years before against Belgium. You know, playing against, you know, they were probably in the top 3 in the world then. They're number 1.
Number 1 in the world I think they were still ranked 1 when we beat them, yeah.
Right, so they've been ranked number 1. So then, and they were ranked number 1 now. You know, so to beat them it's just one of those games where, you know, you watch some of these European games where Man United beat Roma 7-0 and you got Michael Carrick hitting a 30-yarder into the top corner. 9 times out of 10, that ball would have been in the Stretford end. So for me, it's to get to where we did, I thought was really good. But now the next level that are coming through, again, they're decent players. But what you were saying just now about, you got so-and-so coming through, he's 18, so-and-so's 20, so-and-so's 21. If they're that good, they shouldn't be coming through. They should be there. Because when you look at England, you look at, as you mentioned, Bellingham, he's just had his 18th birthday. Phil Foden, 20, 21. Sancho just had his medical today with Man United. Okay. He's been tearing it up in Germany for 2 seasons from the age of 18. All these guys are there. Wayne Rooney was playing for Man United at 17. If you're good enough, you're old enough. How old's the guy that missed the penalty, Saka, Arsenal player? How old is he?
19, I think.
So he played 3 or 4 games in the.
He broke into the first team when he was like 17, I think, though. But he was playing like bit part games, like you said, for in the Europa League. But first team at Arsenal, isn't it, in the European competitions?
Exactly. So you've got all these guys they're already there. They're 17, 18. They're there. You've got guys. I say Saka took a penalty. Whether that's right or wrong, we come on to England in a bit. But you've got all these players who are there. So when this player's, this Welsh guy, he's 19, he's coming through. If he's that good, he'd be there already. He would be. If he wasn't in the team, he'd be in the squad. Because all those England guys who are there now, who are 18, 19, 20, you could say Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah.
Obviously, he got injured. He's another one. All those guys were playing in the England under 17s, 18s. They won the World Cup a couple of years ago. So you've got a team of youth winning a World Cup. So that's going to propel them. It puts them years ahead of if they hadn't got past the quarterfinals. All that experience playing against teams that they play different types of football. You play against Italy, that they're world-class defenders. You can go back 30 years and you've got Maldini, Baresi, Cannavaro, Nesta. Their building block is around not scoring goals. Where the Southgates thought that with the England team, we've gone 3 or 4 games, now we're going to have 8 defenders and nobody's going to score. But we'll come on to England in a bit. But that's my take on Wales. They've done really well to get to where they were for what they've got, and I think they're going to roughly stay the same. I can't see them moving to the next level because they just haven't got, world-class players now and then having something behind them. There's no way you're ever taking Bale or Ramsey off and bringing on somebody equivalent.
Definitely.
England take off, say, Mason Mount, they're bringing on Foden or Grealish. That's the difference.
When you get a player like Bale coming through as well, he's just a generational talent, whatever country he plays for. I think I genuinely do think, maybe not so much anymore, but at his peak he was up there with Messi, Ronaldo. If Neymar was knocking around, I think he was still quite young at that point, so maybe not him. But you've got to say Gareth Bale is a once in a lifetime player for any country, so we do well to replace him. But I do think we are improving the standard of players we've got coming through, because you look at Euro 2016. I know we did have a few lower league players in this squad, but we sort of, apart from, the sort of mainstays in the starting 11, then you're having like Simon Church and David Edwards who are playing like League One, League Two football. And, we're sort of more at League One Championship level now. So hopefully in 10 years, we might be able to start moving up to, but you can only put the foundations in place and hope the talent's going to come through. And if that, we'll still keep cheering for him either way.
Yeah. But you can always
seeding makes for better away days, I have to say.
I think what you can, history plays a part. And when you just mentioned Bale as being the generational player for Wales. You've had Gaza and Rooney with England. You've had, there's been, Roy Keane at Ireland, and there's players, for every country. There's been, world class players. Most countries have had them. But when you look at Wales, and you've got, the last one was Giggs. So before Bale, you had Giggs. Giggs had nobody around him. Before that, you had Dean Saunders and Mark Hughes. You had two very good players, Premiership leading scorers, and then before that you had was Ian Rush.
Yeah.
There's never been a time where you've had 4 or 5 of them that could, if 4 or 5 of them were around at the same time, if you had a Hughes up front with Bale playing, it could have been a different story. But because there's that little football going on in Wales compared to other countries, then you're just not gonna, at the same time, it would be a freak of nature to have 4 or 5 of them coming through. And when you look at England now with, they're all pretty young. The 4 that I've mentioned, you got Mount in there as well. For me, he's not on the same level as, a Sancho or a Grealish. Their game changers. But the England have got 4 or 5 of them there, who could all be world class in the next couple of years, whereas Wales just haven't got that. You mentioned a couple of players who may get into the Premier League. One of them might come off, but there's your one. There's your next generation, and the team is going to be built around him. So that's where I put Wales. If we move on to England, then Czech Republic 1-0, Croatia 1-0, Scotland 0-0.
No.
Who did they play then before?
Germany was in 2-0 in the round of 16. Ukraine was 4-0.
Yeah, was it 2-0 or was it 2-1 against Germany? Did they score?
I don't think they did. I think they kept it clean. I don't think they conceded until the semi-final, actually. England.
Oh, they scored at the end, didn't they, to make it 2-0? Yeah, because Muller missed the sitter because it could have been 1-1.
No, but yeah, he was clean through on goal, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah. 9 times out of 10.
Kane in for a tap-in. So.
You'd have bet your house on...
definitely.
So, if you look at the first, the first round, the table, Czech Republic, average side, Scotland, pretty poor, to be fair. They've got... McGinn, McTominay, QPR striker, not just an average side. So 0-0 against them with the players they've got at their disposal was pretty poor. Croatia, just basically Modric and Perisic, pretty much like Wales with Ramsey and Bale. They're the two that carry them through. Germany, it's been well written as the poorest German side in the last 20 years. Muller's still playing at the age of 86. Is he now? I think Thomas Muller. Kroos retired. After the game. So they're not a force of what they were, and they struggled to score against them until they brought Grealish on, and he assisted and set up basically both the goals in the last 20 minutes. So that was my take on that. Then this Denmark, they played well against Denmark. I think that was their best performance. But again, not Denmark.
Ukraine.
Ukraine.
Oh, yeah.
4-0 against Ukraine. But they brought on, again, the same thing. They play 6-7 in defence. With their, Calvin Phillips, I thought had a very good tournament. But you've got your back 4 or your back 5. You played Trippier in the first game at left back. I don't think he's ever played left back in his life. And then you've got Declan Rice, again, had a good tournament. But when you've got 4-5 at the back and your 2 holding midfielders, my worry was when they were getting to play against decent sides, which really they only played, Italy was the only decent side they played, how are you going to score goals? And they only scored the goals in every game when they changed the system to bring on Foden or Grealish. Sancho, I think, played 5 minutes in one game or 15 minutes. And it takes you 5-10 minutes to get into the game. It showed for Grealish. I think in what he came on in his first game, he came on with, 25 minutes to go. For the first 10 minutes, he was slipping over. And he said it after the game. He just couldn't get his foot in. So... For me, I was worried for England because I think it was the semi-final. That was Denmark, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, semi-final against Denmark. Obviously, they were 1-0 down. Fantastic free kick.
Oh,
brilliant free kick. I thought if you were being critical, I thought Pickford was a yard too far across, and he's slightly short anyway. And if that had been somebody like Kasper Schmeichel, I thought he would have saved it. But again, it was one of those where you've 6-7 at the back. So really then you're looking at your goal scorers. You've got Kane, you've got Mount, who drops back to pick the ball up, and you've got Sterling. And I was watching it for, I don't know when they scored. Did they score pretty early, 25 minutes maybe? Or was it later than that?
I think it was sort of midway in the first half. This maybe about half an hour in.
Right, roughly
I don't think
half
there
an
was
hour.
something like that, yeah.
So I was thinking, right, okay, so they're 1-0 down. So are they going to change the system? And they didn't change the system. And you've got Kyle Walker running down the wing. He's the oldest guy in the team, but he's supposedly the quickest guy in the team. So he was making some great runs. And the problem was that because they've got 2 holding midfielders, and so that you've got 7 really in like a teacup covering your 30-yard back, then Kane and Sterling were dropping back to pick the ball up. So when Walker was running down the wing, and he's the fastest guy on the pitch, he's 20 yards over the halfway line, and I paused it on one occasion just to see exactly what was happening. There's nobody in the box. There was no one in the box because they'd been even with Sterling's pace for him to turn, and because he's on the right anyway, he would have had to run straight and cut back to the left to get in the centre of the box. There's no point in him running in a straight line because he would have been only 10 yards away from
Walker's already running full speed as well.
Exactly.
He's got to accelerate. So
that's a major problem, and it happened in it might have been in the Ukraine game where it was Kane. Kane was 30 yards back. He had a fantastic turn, put an unbelievable ball into Saka, who then crossed it for England to score. But the problem there is you've got your centre forward putting a ball into a midfielder who is then meant to cross it in to the centre forward. But the centre forward has just done a fantastic pass and he's nowhere to be seen. That was my worry. And I thought, right, unless they change this system for the final, then they're not going to score goals. Luckily, again, they scored a goal after 3 minutes, but who scored? The left back. Running in, unbelievable half volley into the corner, beats Dodorama, who's a fantastic keeper. I thought, right, great. What's going to happen now? And they just sat back with their 7. In fact, they had 8 because they put Trippier in as well. So before, when it was a back 4 plus your 2, you've got 6 on your keeper. But they had a back 5 with Rice and Phillips, so that's 7, and your keeper was 8. So they only had Mount just in front of them. So you've got one attacking midfielder, Sterling on a right wing, right midfield, and Kane. And they're dropping back to pick the ball up. Who are they going to pass it? There's nobody there. So apart from that goal, which was a great goal by a left back, they were never going to score in a million years. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm a Welsh fan, but I'm British, so I wanted them to beat the Italians. And I'm sitting there thinking, just get Grealish on. Foden obviously was injured, but it would have been get Foden on, get Sancho on. Just you've got to have a link, an extra link between your 7 and your strikers, or you're playing against, the two best centre pairing in probably world football, and they're not going to concede. And he didn't change it. And then when obviously I'll have all your thoughts on it in a second. So I'll finish my bit. And I just think that they're not going to score. And then when they scored to make it 1-1, I thought, now you need to change it because you've got your half an hour of your extra time. You've got I don't know when he scored. I think it was in the 60-odd minute, something like that.
Yeah, after about an hour, I think.
Yeah, about 60 minutes. So you had half an hour to change it. You had another half an hour of extra time. So there's an hour. And he left it and he left it and he left it. And then he brought Grealish on. Then he changed Rice and brought Henderson on. So like for like. I thought, you've got to be more attack minded. And he left it and he left it and he left it. And then the decision that I could not believe was with 90 seconds to go, he brings on Rashford and who did he
Sancho.
He brings on Rashford and Sancho, not for them to win the game in the last 90 seconds, for 2 youngsters to take a penalty in a European final when they haven't touched the ball. And for me, for me, it was 100% down to the manager's choice that he's got world-class subs who can break down any team's defense on the planet, because they've proved it time and time again, and he didn't bring them on. So you come up against your first proper football inside and you don't know what you're doing. That's my take. And I've seen a lot of Southgate's a hero. He's got them to the final. He's got them to the semi. But if that had been a tactical manager there who knew what he was doing, one of them would have started and one of them would have come on after 60 minutes. And they would have won it, because they're so talented, those guys. And you'll see it in the Premier League now with Sancho this season. Watch how he takes teams apart. And that's my take on it. What are your thoughts on the England from qualifying right through?
Yeah, well, solid in qualifying as they always are. Like we said when we were talking about Wales, when you've got 50 odd million people and one that, well, definitely the best football league in the world, you've got those resources to pull together and make a national team from. You always should do well at major tournaments and qualify for most of them. I think probably going to mirror most of the points you said, to be honest. I mainly agree with them. I will be honest, I'll put a disclaimer in first. I've never really felt myself as British or an England fan, so I've never really rooted for them or anything. Not me actively saying I wanted them to lose or anything like that, but seeing what was kicking off at Wembley before the game did make me sort of crack a Peroni open instead of a Carlin. But yeah, to be honest, I think Southgate just got outmaneuvered by Mancini, a bit like Page did against a Danish manager in our round of 16 game. I think he was a bit naive in his tactical approach against Italy, like you said. No, I don't want to be too critical, because I think his plan was working for maybe the first half hour. England was seeming to control the ball relatively well. They were soaking up the pressure when it was being applied by Italy, but I don't think they really grew into the game until the end of the first half. You can say having the wing backs worked because, the goal was wing back to wing back. And after about 2 minutes, I maybe think they might have scored too early, to be honest with you, because 2-3 minutes, something like that. So if you're scoring that early in a game, you're going to be having unless I think as well, they started to sit back right after they scored, didn't they?
Right away,
so early on, if you've gone 1-0 up after a couple of minutes, if you can be 2-0 up after 15, 20 minutes, even after 10 minutes, you can take your foot off the pedal a bit then and sort of sit back, control the ball a bit more, look for the spaces. You've got some older players in that Italian team. A lot of them have played in I know they've rested a few players in like the final group game against us, but I think their starting 11's been relatively solid apart from the Wales game. So they've played a lot of football, as have a lot of the England lads. So if you can pull them about, move them about, tire them out, those spaces are going to start to open up more. You could be 3-0 up before half time. You could score early in the second half, and then they're cruising to the win, aren't they? So I just think he was a bit silly not picking up on the changes Mancini made at half time. And so Italy just seemed to grow into the game, put a bit more pressure on the ball, start spraying about and sort of pull the England back line around a bit and sort of create the space. And I think they ended up with 19 attempts, 6 on target. I have to say, I thought player I've never really been that hot on. Thought Jordan Pickford had a solid tournament, but I think he played really well, especially in the final. I think he made 5 or 6 saves.
He was quite poor in the semi when he was his kick in. He was quite
his distribution was a bit. I think he had one early in this. Oh no, I think it was Maguire actually that put it straight out for a corner. I think that was quite soon after they scored. So I was thinking, oh no, are they going to start with this already? But in the shootout as well, he saved 2 of the penalties, didn't he? So.
I don't know, with what you mentioned there about, I think it was roughly, I'm not sure about what the final possession stats were, but it kept coming up every 20 minutes. And after about an hour or maybe longer, it was 70 odd possessions with Italy. So you bang on there. We scored within 2 or 3 minutes. And when you've got your 8 at the back with your couple of strikers, you're going to sit back in, but then you're inviting the pressure. Yeah. When you're under pressure, there's no outlet. There's no, Kane's inside his own half and Sterling, so there was no outlet to get rid of it, and it was just wave after wave. And to be fair, he should have learned from the semi-final, because when Denmark were down to 10 men, and they took Grealish off and brought who did they because they brought Grealish on and they took him off, didn't they? Was it Henderson they brought on?
I think it was Henderson, yeah.
Yes, they brought Henderson on. So, just to totally nullify the game and try and win it there and then. But in the last 15 minutes, Denmark, they were the team that were likely to score, and they only had 10 men. So you're thinking, right, okay, what are you going to do in the final against Italy? They sat back, and then they brought Henderson on, and then they took Henderson off in the final. I don't know. And that was obviously only to take a penalty. But I couldn't understand, why didn't Luke Shaw take a penalty? Shaw takes penalties. And they let Saka take a penalty, who doesn't take penalties for Arsenal. Grealish has come out on Twitter and said, "Look, I said I was happy to take one, but is this something that we're not? It's meant to be all rosy in the camp and all this, but why isn't Grealish playing? He's done really well for Villa this season. He played in 2 or 3 friendlies before the tournament. I'm not sure whether he started. I think he started in one but came off, but he was man of the match in 2 or 3 of them. He comes on in one of the game's group stages, assists and set up both the goals. So is there something that we're not seeing here, or I don't know?
I can't put my finger on it, to be honest with you, mate. The only thing I'd say about the penalty is I was listening to one of Southgate's interviews today. I think there was a bit of controversy whether the players nominate themselves to take it in a shootout, but he said he predetermines who takes it and he's the one who decides. So obviously, I think you could guess that was subbing 2 players on, but like you said, surely you'd bring them on, maybe at a push, maybe the last 10 minutes of extra time, just so they've got 10 minutes to get a feel for the ball, get used to the atmosphere, like Grealish not being able to find his footing.
Yeah.
Imagine if they had a John Terry moment in the Champions League final, slip over on their arse and sky it over the Wembley Arch. Like, that's not going to look good on the front pages.
Rashford takes penalties. He likes to take penalty, and he's a good penalty taker. Obviously, with fine margins, he hits the post. But if he'd had, as you said, if he'd been on for 10, 15 minutes, number one, he could have changed the game. He could have scored because he's very fast. And you've got Chiellini and Bonucci had been playing for 110 minutes. He'd be walking past those guys. So bring them on so they can affect the game. And with your, one eye on the, penalty shootout, they both take penalties. But I can't understand why, as you said, Grealish has offered to take a penalty. He must have been confident enough to take a penalty because he's offered. And Roy Keane said after the game, your big time players, need to step up and say, it's all well and good predetermining your 5 players, but what happens after? Because Saka started, didn't he? Did he start?
No, he came on during normal time. I think
he came on
after 16.
He came on from Mount. Was it right? I'm not
one of those 2.
So he's come on. He's played for maybe an hour. By the time the penalties come, he's probably nervous because he's only young. Things like that. So he might be great in practice, in training, but when it comes to the massive stage, there needs to be a backup plan. And I saw on Twitter, I think it might have been yesterday. Have you seen them when Portugal were taking the penalties? I'm not sure whether it was in the final.
Yeah.
Ronaldo.
Is it to João Moutinho? He tells him to come over and, you always hit him in training. You're an experienced player. Can you take one?
Yeah, take a penalty. Exactly. And what did he say? Show
if we miss, we miss. Was it like show some character or show some confidence?
Yeah, character or something. Like, and then he's like, you're taking a penalty. Go up and take one. That's
the sort of leadership you need in that situation.
That's what we were missing. That's what England were missing, was that kind of, hold on a second. I can see, like, who was the, we'll come back to Saka in a second, but there was another game where, what's his name? Ex-Chelsea player for Spain, up front.
Morata.
Goes
he missed against Italy, didn't he?
He went up. I would have put my house on him missing. He took the ball. It looked like he was going to be sick. He was white as a sheet. I thought, there's no way in a million years this guy's going to score a penalty. I'd seen him miss a couple for Chelsea in the past, but I thought not in a minute. He just looked like, I don't want to take this penalty. I don't want to take this penalty. And he took it, he missed. I think he hit the keeper. The ball came back towards him, and he literally picked the ball up, took it back to the spot and placed it there. And he didn't look like he was bothered at all. It was as if, I know I'm going to miss. If I score brilliant, I know I'm going to miss. And there was literally, if you watch it back, I think he dribbled it back to the spot and just left it there and walked off. There was no head in hand like Rashford. I mean, that was against Italy, wasn't it? That was in the semi.
Yeah, that was.
So that would have been one of the ones that knocked Spain out, because I thought Spain had a good game against Italy.
It was a bit of a shame for Morata as well, because he's always been vilified by the Spanish media. They're not a massive fan of him. And he scored the goal to equalise, hadn't he? So he'd gone from the hero to the villain in a drop of a 30-minute extra time period. So.
But when you're looking at Saka, and he was walking up with the same kind of, I suppose, a bit of fear in his face. And if you're the captain and you can see that, you need to be, hold on. Do you really want to take one? Because we got Grealish here said he wants to take one. We've got somebody else says, you might have said it in practice, but do you want to take one? If you don't, we've got other people, which is exactly what Ronaldo did with Moutinho. Why aren't you taking a penalty? Get up there, show some character. I think he said it twice, didn't he? Show some character. Moutinho goes up there, bang, straight in the net. There you go. So that was, I just think it's a shame, because when you've got a squad like that, they should have beaten Italy. Without a doubt. First half an hour, they passed them around the park. I thought Verratti came into it a bit more, because he played really well against Wales. He was the only main player, and he was superb against Wales. But they kept him quiet for a bit. But then you're going to gain confidence when you've got 70% of the ball.
Yeah, that's. I've just. Italy have just played so well throughout the tournament, and I think they've sort of put to bed. Well, they still do. Like you said before, they're well drilled defensively. There's that sort of historic thing of Italian teams always being solid at the back. Few complaints about Italian football being boring because they just score early and defend for their lives in the Serie A. But I think against Wales and some of the smaller teams at this tournament, but also against some of the bigger teams as well, the more difficult games they've had, I should say, they've been able to control the game a bit more, sort of spread it about. When you've got those technical players like Verratti that can use their range of passing to dictate the tempo of the play, you can just pin teams back. And if you're putting that much pressure on them, that was the thing about that goal. It was a scrappy goal they scored in the 60th minute. I think it was a flick on from a corner, but that's just pressure getting to the England back line. And Pickford did quite well with the first one. He couldn't really do much for the second if you're poking it in. But that's been one of the things about this Italian team. Like there's on the other podcast I do, we had an Italian lad on before the Wales-Italy game to get a bit more insight on their team. He said one of the things about this squad that Mancini's built, there's no real stars like they've had in the past. They've had the Tottis and the Pirlos and the Nestas. They're all really good players playing, for Inter Milan, Juve, playing around the world, a lot of them as well. Yeah. But there's no sort of standout stars. And I think there's that group mentality in the Italy team. But you look at the England team, it's star-studded. You can't argue otherwise. That I'd be interested if someone sat down, worked out all the values of the 26-man squad and did a little sum, see how much the entire squad would cost in today's transfer market, because it'd be in the billions, surely.
The England team,
or $1 billion, yeah.
Yeah,
maybe a few hundred million, easy.
Easy. Sancho now is 75 million. Just for one player. I do think that. Yeah, no, you're right. They haven't got a star. They haven't got a Baggio. They haven't got a Totti or a Maldini. They've got a unit. Their striker is obviously they got Immobile, but is it Chiesa?
Chiesa.
Brilliant player.
Yep.
He was fantastic against Wales. I think he's the other one that played against Wales. He was the other, and I thought he was superb. He's one of their best players, and he was very, very good. He's probably worth a fair bit of money and he's probably put himself in the shop window. I don't know, who's he play for? Is he playing it for you?
He plays for Juventus, yeah. I think he was at Fiorentina. I think it was last year he moved, but Juve haven't done so well this year. I think they finished 6th or maybe 5th. So they,
And
I think it was the
Ronaldo's
first time
character.
in so long. Yeah, exactly. I think that, well, they struggled with Pirlo as manager. I think they've moved on from him now. They've got Allegri back in, so it just depends how they rebuild the. So after those performances and winning the Euros for your country, you got to think he's going to be a shoe-in starting for them next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was phenomenal this tournament. Donnarumma as well. I can't remember how old he is, but he's quite young as well, even though he looks massive. And that's the other thing in a penalty shootout, when you've got a goalkeeper that size standing against you. Jordan Pickford's, I think we're about the same height. I've got really short arms as well, so it'd probably be like having me in the goal. Obviously, he's far more athletic than I am. I'd probably dive and end up heading the post, knowing me. But if you've got an intimidating figure like that in the goal, 60,000 fans in a stadium, millions of people watching around the world, you've got that level of pressure on you. Most people are going to crack under it. That's why most people don't play elite sport at that level. But yeah, Donnarumma got player of the tournament in the end, didn't he? As well.
Well, I think he's only about 23, because I know that probably 5-6 years ago he was 17, and obviously Buffon was there then. But there was even talk of him at that age having like a big move to the UK or to Germany at 17. Yeah. And I think there's a story, I can't remember it. But they kept him at the club for a couple of years. And then, what was it? There was something to do with, because he was hated by the crowd for a while, because I think he was something along the lines of, he basically said, look, I'm going, I'm done. Yeah. I've signed for whoever, Bayern Munich or, a top side, and it fell through. So then he had to go back, cap in hand, and play, the following season. Yeah. But he's still very young. There's been talk about him since he was 16, 17, and he's a beast, isn't he? He's about 6'5".
Oh yeah.
And as you said, when he's standing in the middle of the penalty area, and you've got probably a 9.5 foot, wingspan, then what's the goal? 18 meters or 12?
16.
12 yards.
Yeah, I think it's about 12 yards.
Yeah, but it's only, it's not a very big goal when you've got somebody
that's... Not when it is.
Exactly. So when you're standing like that, you've only got about 6 foot on each side. So unless you take a penalty like Harry Maguire and absolutely smash it straight into the top corner, there's a good chance somebody like Donnarumma is going to save. And unless you commit and aim for, you've got to be aiming about halfway up the post. If you're aiming low down and the keeper dives the right way, there's a very good chance he's going to save it. Yeah. It doesn't matter how hard you hit it. If you hit it halfway or above and it goes within that 2 foot cone that you aim at every day in training, if you get it in there and it's halfway above, it doesn't matter how tall you are, the keeper ain't going to get it. It's just, it doesn't happen. And they all hit it below, apart from Maguire. And they were saved. And take your hat off to Donnarumma. But if you look at the penalties, they were poor penalties.
Yeah, definitely. I don't like these stutter run-ups. Everyone seems to be so set on these days. Like you said, it's sort of get your head down, look at the ball, pick a corner, blast it into it. And half the time, if you put it in that cone area, you were describing in the corner of goal, if the keeper gets a hand to it, he pushes it into the corner for you. So.
You only need 2 or 3 steps. All this, running up from 7-8 yards, it's giving the keeper an indication of where you're going to score from.
Yeah.
Yes, you can, because if you're right-footed, you're running in from the right, you're running in to take it, then you start shaping to shape where you're going to put it. And if you're normally they shape to put it on the right-hand side. So, it's going to go on the right-hand side. The problem is when they then try and hook it to the left-hand side, the chances of hitting the post or missing, like what Rashford did, he sent the keeper the wrong way. So all he needed to do was put the ball in the goal. But because you're hooking it across, there's less margin for error. Yeah. It's like when you're playing golf. If you're 10 yards off the green and you take a pitching wedge, the chances of you hitting into the ground are quite high. So you could duff the ball. If you're only 10 yards away, you take like an 8 iron, so there's less margin for error. Oh, so you literally just hit little chip off the ground onto the green. It's less margin for error. And it's the same thing with that. If you're standing 2 or 3 yards away, number one, you're literally going 1, 2, bang, you're taking the shot. The keeper's got no time to do all that silly stepping around. He's got to keep 1 foot on the line now, which is a new rule, which hasn't been out that long. So he's there. You're giving them no time, and you've got people. I remember people like Socrates for Brazil back in the day. There's quite a lot of penalty takers. You only need 2 or 3 steps. You can still hit the ball hard, but you've got more control over it. You literally 1, 2, top corner, or 1, 2, send the keeper the wrong way like Rashford did. But there's less margin for error. And anyone can say, but it's in front of 60,000. It does make the goal a little bit smaller. But, okay, but you're playing in front of 60-odd thousand every week. Okay, you don't take penalties every week, but you're getting paid £100,000 a week. If you can't hit the goal, who hit it over? Who took the first penalty? Didn't it go over the bar?
Yeah, was it one of the Italians that missed that first?
Over the bar, wasn't it?
I think so. Was
Somebody
it Insigne? I can't remember. I think
either one of the penalties in the first 1 or 2 was over the bar. You can't hit an 18-yard goal from 12 yards away, and you're getting paid £100,000 a week. It doesn't matter if you apply, and you're playing in front of millions of people every week when you're playing for Juventus or Roma or whoever. Whatever you do, hit the target. You've got to make the keeper save that ball. And if you miss it, it's like, oh, brilliant. I don't even have to stand in the goal. I could have been facing the other way. I just thought it was... and you looked at some of the other ones. Here's a question for you. In all of the Euros, if you were a midfielder or a striker, you like shooting a goal, don't you?
Yeah, you'd think.
So why the majority of the penalty takers in the Euros were defenders?
I had noticed a bit of a trend with the defenders taking them. I've always thought it's a bit weird when defenders take set pieces, to be honest with you. I mean, you had sort of people in the Premier League like John Arnorisa with a sort of left foot rocket from a free kick. I think Leighton Baines was a bit of a set piece specialist as well.
He took penalties, wasn't he, Baines?
Yeah, he did as well, of course. But yeah, I mean, I guess in a sense, if you were after a player who's sort of going to get their head down and smash the ball into the goal, in theory, would a defender not be used to getting their head down and smashing the ball to clear it, but they'd be trying to get it high and wide, sort of out of the centre of the pitch? Yeah, that is, but then, England they bought 2 specialist players on to take penalties, didn't they? Sancho and Rashford, who are both wingers. Kane scored his. Saka's a winger as well. He's a bit of a utility player.
Maguire's
I think Chiellini, was it Bonucci or Chiellini that took one?
One of them did, but
one of the centre-halves took one.
I've just seen throughout the tournament, and it was picked up as well by one of the commentators. The majority of the penalty takers, because there's been quite a few penalty shots.
I think in the Swiss game, though, sorry, you are right, because they had Shaw, that Rodriguez, but he's a bit of a set piece specialist. I think Shaw is a penalty taker, or he was for his old club. He's not for Newcastle now.
Mm.
And I can't remember. They did have another defender taking a penalty. I think they had 3, and they won that shootout as well, didn't they? So,
well, Bonucci or Chi, I think it was Bonucci, but he placed the ball in the corner. So obviously, I know it's like when they're passing the ball, they're literally passing it along the ground. And that's another way of taking a penalty. If you can send the keeper the wrong way, pass the ball into the goal. Don't belt it. But when you're a striker or you're a midfielder, you're constantly shooting a goal. Whether it's a static ball in training. I mean, you're constantly shooting for goal. So why can't you take? England might be an exception to the rule, but you've got all the Germans. You've got Hummels took a penalty in one of the shootouts. But it just seemed to me, that's a defender. That's another defender. That's another. It's like, wait, so why aren't these strikers who are strikers, they're goal scorers, they're goal poachers? You're 12 yards away. You've got the goal in front of you and you've got the keeper to beat. If that was in a game situation, then every day you'd want your striker. And when it is in a game situation and the ball is 8 yards out and there's a defender there and he blasts it over the bar, that's the first thing the commentator says, oh God, can you believe that it was him that was there? Whereas in the penalties throughout it with most of these nations, it was the defenders. I just thought it was really strange.
No, it is a bit odd. You'd think as well, strikers, your team's going to get a set amount of penalties a season, in theory. So I know there's penalties at it, unless you're a team that's proud of the VAR refs. But if you're going to get 10 penalties a season, if you're the first team striker for your team, you're going to want to take those. That's going to put your goal tally up by, if you start in 8 of the games you get, you might get 8 extra goals a season from it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any excuse for a striker not wanting to or not being able to take a penalty, because like you've said, putting the ball in the back of your net, your bread and butter. That's why you're a professional footballer playing up front. I think with it's more common to see a false 9 in sort of British football now, and I know they did use one at the Euros, but I think because your false 9 isn't necessarily an out-and-out recognised striker, maybe that's where it's coming from. So you're having to rely from sort of players from other positions to do it, or if you have a set piece specialist, you might give it to them if they can take penalties as well. But yeah, I think maybe something to do with the defenders being a bit calmer under pressure because they're having to sort of deal with clearing the book. But I don't really think I don't really know, to be honest with you. That's stumped me. Have you got
it is a tough one. You can only, I don't know, my only other thought on that would be it's down to the individual. So you're gonna have, like you said just now about it being preset with the English. I picked my 5; those were the 5. But all the other teams, it just must be a coincidence that you've got 2 or 3 defenders going, yeah, I'll happily take a penalty, and then they've done it in practice, like say Bonucci or Chiellini or whoever, and they've done well at it. And they're happy to take a penalty in a shootout, which is obviously nerve-wracking. And the further you get in the tournament becomes more, nerve-wracking. What was that one? Who was the one that sat out that didn't take a penalty in one of the ones? Was it a World Cup not long ago? Or it wasn't Rooney. It was a top player. And
I think in one of the Portugal games, Ronaldo I think he was the last one to take a penalty, or he was going to be the 5th one to take a penalty, but Portugal had missed so many that they could lose the shootout before he got to take one, and they did.
No, it wasn't that. It was either the last World Cup or maybe the World Cup before, or a Euros, a past one where a top player didn't take a penalty and they ended up losing, and it was like, oh, he's basically shit out. And there's a lot about it then for a few days after. But if you're not comfortable taking a penalty in a high pressure, you're going to get people. You get it in all jobs. Some people like stress, some people don't, and it's a stressful situation. And as the goal looks minute when you're there. I've taken a few penalties. It just in a normal Saturday game and because it's a proper game as opposed to practice, you go up there. I only used to take 2 or 3 yards, but you put it down and thinking, put it in the corner, and you look up and the goal physically and mentally looks smaller than what it is. So you can only imagine what it's like with 60,000 fans jeering or shouting against you. That goal must look minute. So you've got to have people in the team who are happy to take the penalties, which Morata wasn't, Saka wasn't, and they're going to miss. So that might be the theory behind some of these defenders. They might be happier under pressure because they're not really in the limelight. And I think if they missed, it's like, oh, it's a defender that's missed. Whereas if Harry Kane missed that penalty and then scored the rebound, if he missed the penalty and it ended up 1-1 and it had gone to penalties, then how hard would that have been for him to score a penalty in the shootout, knowing that he'd missed one in the game? Does he go the same way? Is he going to go it would have made it that much harder mentally for him, so it's interesting. It's interesting. But on the whole, decent Euros.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think I don't know if it was fully worth the year's wait, but I thought there was some good football. I think for the most part, a lot of the big teams most people expected to do well didn't really show up. in the set like France, Germany. I don't know if people really thought they were going to get much out of Germany. It's not been any secret that Joachim Löw's on his way out and Hansi Flick's coming in. I'm trying to think about Portugal. Sort of went away with a bit of a whimper, but that they did draw the toughest group overall.
They're all in the same group, aren't they? All in the same group.
France, yeah.
And we all
Hungary played quite well, considering everyone was tarring them as the whipping boys, and I think they got 2 points, did they?
Well, we all said,
they
didn't we? With the other guys 5-6 weeks ago, it was it's France, Germany, or Portugal.
Whoever gets out of that group, they're most likely to go on and win it. And I don't think any of them got past the quarterfinals.
Well, Germany played England, and France and Portugal were out before that, weren't they? So very, very surprising. And there was no stars. Nobody shone. Italy, they won it. There was no star there who scored 5 or 6 goals. England, as you said, when you're naming, Pickford as one of the best players, then you're really struggling to find, But when as you said, we keep coming back to it. When you've got 6 or 7 in defence and defensive midfielders, you're not going to have a star.
Yeah, if you're playing that defensively minded football as well, it's going to be the defenders and the sort of holding mids that are going to stand out if they're sort of putting the shifts in. But you touched on Calvin Phillips before. He'd be the other one I'd say for the England team.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'd maybe put himself in the shop window or if he'd leave Leeds, because I know he's a Leeds lad as well. But
there's already talk of Man United. There's already talk of Man United.
I don't think that'd be a bad deal for your guys, to be honest. I'd have him replacing Xhaka at Arsenal, since he looks like he's on his way out finally.
Yeah.
But for just some stats for Phillips in that sort of ball-winning midfielder role, in the first 5 games, he'd won possession back for his team 28 times. And I think there was only 2 players, one being Højbjerg, who done that more in those first 5 games. So
very good.
Phenomenal. But he's been doing that for Leeds most of the season, in my opinion. He's really stood out for them, I think. And he sort of really suits our I remember when I was working at Ellen Road, he was probably the one player when they were in the championship that really stood out for me. I mean, apart from like Pablo Hernandez, but you have a really technical player like that in the championship, they do stand out. But sort of as a younger academy product coming through, I wasn't at all surprised to see Phillips get a call up. I was quite happy for him. I thought it was well deserved and did himself and Leeds really proud this summer, I have to say. So.
Yeah, no, very good. But yeah, on the whole, decent. Obviously, the crowd's back now, which has obviously gradually added to it. But yeah, decent. What did you think of the? It suited England because they played 4 or 5 games at home. It made me laugh when I think it was one of them, either Bonucci or Chiellini, that said, England were bound to get to the final because they had 4 or 5 games at home. But when Italy progressed in Italia 90, when France progressed in France 98, you're playing all your games at home. If it's your country, then you play all your games at home. It's home advantage. That's why in every World Cup since the first World Cup in 1930 in Uruguay, right up until one of the ones in the year 2000, a team of that continent always won the World Cup. So from 1930 to the year 2000 and something, if the World Cup was in your continent, you won it. Because traveling to a different continent, the time zone, the heat and everything else, and it works both ways. If you're coming from Brazil and you're playing on a wet Wednesday in Austria or France or wherever it may be, the UK, it's a totally different game. It's not going to fly along the floor for the Brazilians or the Argentinians. So you have to change your game. And it's never been an issue. So for them to come out and go, yeah, England, they're bound to get to the final because they've played 4 games at home. It just made me laugh, really.
They played quite a few games at Rome as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
Olympico, so they can't really. I think if anyone should be moaning about that, it's the likes of Wales and Switzerland and Denmark played quite a lot. Copenhagen was a host city, wasn't it? But I know they did it as an anniversary because I think, is it the 50th year or the 51st year, because it's an extra year, but it was going to be the 50th anniversary of European, or maybe the 60th actually, because I think it was 1960, first one.
Don't know. It hasn't. It's
Can't
quite
remember.
young, isn't it?
They did like a timeline before the final. I'd had a few beers at this point, he bloody remembers. But no, I'm looking forward to having it in Germany in 2024. No, 2026. 2024, yeah. I'm sorry, I completely forgot what year it'd be then.
2021 now, isn't it? So it'll be in 3 years, so to get it
24.
back on the right. But what?
Yeah.
So obviously, yeah, the concept's okay in theory. Yes, it's being played in lots of countries. But as a fan, if you were going to if you wanted to go to more than one game and you were Wales, you're having to go to Baku, then you're going to go to Rome and back to the UK if you were playing in the quarters. It doesn't work on a fan's point of view.
Yeah, that's the thing, especially for those later rounds progressing, because with the third place qualifying thing, it's all a bit up in the air where those people are going to play until it's also, so you're literally refreshing your bloody phone till full time, then getting straight on Skyscanner trying to book a flight, book a match ticket for whatever venue you've decided, or you've been told you have to go to.
Country that the Brits aren't allowed to go to.
I was going to say, you've got to check the green list to see if it's on there. And Reykjavik isn't a host city, so you're a bit buggered in that sense. Yeah, I mean, we were planning on going to Baku for the first 2 games because we did manage to get tickets, but it was going to be a bit of a faff around anyway because it's basically the Middle East you're having to fly to there. And all the direct flights got taken straight away, of course. So I think it was like a 28 to 30 hour itinerary with 4 or 5 changes. You know, that's you do it for Wales, but it's a big ask. And I think as well, just being able to travel round sort of on the train throughout a country or something, or, you know, get a bus or a coach, it sort of adds to the atmosphere a bit more, and all the fans in one place from the different countries as well.
Yeah.
It's like an Olympic Games, isn't it? You have everyone, you wouldn't have a continental Olympics in Asia, would you? Let's have all the martial arts in Tokyo, and let's do the athletics in Beijing, and let's do the swimming off the coast of India or something. You know, you wouldn't do that. Logistical nightmare, surely.
Yes,
I think UEFA were sort of taking the Azerbaijani gas pipeline money to give Baku a host city status. I thought that was a bit weird.
Yeah, just the same as Qatar in.
Oh, exactly.
That's next year, isn't it? 2022. Yeah.
Yeah, it is Winter World Cup as well. They're still doing it, aren't they?
They've had millions of pounds of the backhanders and gold Rolex watches for that, haven't they? Same as when they were found out in the last. They all had
the Russia one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. When they were found out, the Nigerian had a watch and all that kind of stuff, and it's all backhanders. There's no way in a million years they would have given a World Cup legitimately to Qatar. You know, they don't even know what football is.
Great football, the nation of Qatar.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so we've done the Euros to death. British Lions obviously on tour now. Very disrupted with COVID and had to play the same team twice, beat them 50 odd points and 70 odd points. My take so far is that there's, especially not so much with the forwards, but it to a certain extent with the forwards, but with the backs, there's just so many good players in the positions. When you look at, you know, Hogg had a decent game, Liam Williams had a decent game. You know, there's a couple of people who are like, oh, he's going to be odds-on favourite for playing fullback or playing wing or playing centre. And in every game, you know, you think, oh, yeah, Zammit, fantastic, had a great Six Nations, scores in his opener. You know, he's got a good chance of getting in. I think he scored another one. And then you've got Josh Adams, who scored about 8 in 3. So he's pretty much bolted on. But then you look at the other wing and you've got Van der Merwe. He's been scoring. Anthony Watson.
A hat-trick, didn't he, Van der Merwe?
Yeah, he scored 3. And you've got Watson scored 2. One was a fantastic solo effort. He's playing full back Wednesday night. So I don't know why just trying something different. Or maybe they'll have Liam Williams on the wing. But those back 3, you basically could just throw their hats up in the air and whichever one's landing on, it's crazy. And you know, this outside half is a good one for me because obviously Russell's injured at the moment, so they've just sent out Marcus Smith, who he's on the fringe of England. He's not there yet, but he looks an awesome talent. So hopefully he gets a couple of games in the midweek just to show off his skills, even if he doesn't make a test, which I think unless he plays ridiculously well in 2 midweek games. I can't see him getting in instead of, Bigger or Farrell or whoever they, tend to go for. But it's the backs been for me unbelievable. What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely, I think strength and depth we've got in this line squad is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, basically all the people you said there of who I was going to touch on. I think Josh Adams, since he's broken into the Wales side, really, he's just shown his ability as an out-and-out finisher, and he's a really quick player, so good vision, good hand speed, and 8 tries in 3 games for the line. That's absolutely. You playing decent South African sides, that's nothing to sort of look away at. It's phenomenal. I'm really happy with how he's performing, and he started at fullback in one of the games as well, didn't he? So he's playing. I don't think he's played that position for Blues or for Worcester that regularly, or before, to my knowledge, anyway. So it's a new position for him filling in. He's scored. I think that was one of the games he scored 2 in. So, but the thing for me is those backs are playing so well that you just mentioned, but the way they're structuring the bench at the minute, I think they're only having 2 backs as replacements, and then I think you'll only have 5 altogether. Yeah, I think you'll only have 7 in any match day squad then to a pivot. So it is going to be a case of, I think, who has the best game when they have the chance closest to the time. And so if Watson has a stormer at fullback it's tomorrow, isn't it? Is it the South Africa A team that?
Yeah, and you look at the side that they've got out. There's test players in there. That Etsabear's in there. There's a lot of test players in there. The captain.
It's a strong side.
Very strong side. When I looked at it, I had to look at the top to make sure it was their A side, because 6, 7, 8 of them are main test players, and they're in the A. They'll be in that team. They're obviously just they're having a run out early on, because I know a lot of them have had COVID problems and missed games because of stuff. So they want to get up to match fitness, and I'm sure that they'll be in the full team in a couple of weeks' time. So I was shocked when I saw how many there were. So it'll be a good test for, I think, is it no, I think Ken Owens is back, isn't he? Because Jamie George was captain in the last game. I think he's in there, or he might be on the bench. But and see, it's the same problem with the back 3 of the scrum, 6, 7, and 8. There's so many there, with Curry. I know that Navidi's was called up. As you say, Curry. You've got Byrne. You've got a few Irish, a couple of Scottish in there. Watson, as in Hamish Watson. So the back 3, Sam Simmons. He had a cracking game when he played, and he's not even an England starter. Obviously he's going to be pushing for a start with Faletau, and you've got what's the Scots guy's name? 2 brothers. One of them's a number 8 as well. They've got so many players in those positions. The back 3 in the scrum and the back 3 in the backs. It's just an embarrassment of riches. And when he's talking about strength and depth that England had in the football, I think the Lions have got far superior strength and depth than I've seen them on tour before, and they should be far superior in depth to the box, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think some of the players as well, you look at like Bundyaki, for example, I think he didn't have the best Six Nations for Ireland, so there was a bit of debate who was going to be called up into the centre. So I don't want to say he was a surprise inclusion, because I think he's a really physical player. He's got a try in him as well. I think he can play inside and outside centre quite well. I think he played inside at the last game, and then he's been moved to the outside for the Scottish lad coming in, whose name I've just
Chris Harris, very good.
That's him. Yeah, brilliant. And so you got Farrell who can play in that position as well, if you want to do that sort of 2 playmakers thing with the 10 and the 12. I'm not really a fan of that myself. I think Conor Murray's been named the captain of the Test side for now, but I haven't heard anything else on this, but I saw something the Welsh Rugby Union put out today. Alan Wyn-Jones is back, and he's done 2 full contact training sessions. One this morning, one this afternoon, I believe.
Definitely
3 weeks after a dislocated shoulder, is it? Something like that?
Yeah, not long.
What is this man made of? Honestly, he wasn't going to be back in time for the Six Nations. He played all 5 games.
Yeah.
And then he was going to be out for the whole Lions tour, and now they're debating whether he can be called back up and be up to full match fitness for the first test against the Box.
I don't think it'll be the first
test.
I think an extra week, every day counts, and if I don't know what the injury was, I don't know the extent of it, but if you can, if it's been 3 weeks to now, and you've got another couple of weeks, or probably another 3 weeks before, say, the second test, so that's 6 weeks of, if it's only his shoulder, if it's only his shoulders popped out, because he didn't even have a sling, did he? He had his hand in his pocket. So if it is only a shoulder pop out, then the amount of muscle work that you can do in 6 weeks, you might have to ice it and have a few days to get the bruising out. Again, I don't know. This is just, hypothetical, but he could have had a month of building the muscles around the area to, if he hadn't stretched ligaments when it happened and everything's in place, then if it is a case then of building around that area for a 3-4 week period, you can easily build up a big area of muscle in a month by training that area every 2 to 3 days, and maybe a cortisone injection. Again, it's all pie in the sky because I don't know whether that was the actual injury, but if it was, then in theory 6 weeks between doing it and the second test, or even the third test, that's a long time. If you started doing weights today, in 6 weeks time you'd be pushing 20 kilograms more on the bench press. And if he's pushing big weights anyway, that muscle build up in that area, which you can really concentrate on, could make a huge difference. I don't know. It all depends on exactly what the injury was. But it can't have been much of an injury if they're saying 3 weeks later, he could be back in a few weeks. It couldn't have been. It must have been just a pop out,
Yes, they called her. I think it was Adam Baird to replace him, so I don't know if they'd switch the players back out, because I think he's been named on the bench for tomorrow's game. The other thing that I've been wondering about, there's been a few debates about this, but I think people have come to the consensus that Murray and Bigger will be the starting partnership. Injuries and everything else. I think definitely a shoe-in for those two. I think that's probably one of the few set positions at the minute. Well, probably the only one in the backs that we've got pretty much nailed down. You can maybe say Ken Owens, try to think who'd be in the front three with him. Maybe Wyn Jones. I think he's played very well since he's come into. I don't know for the first test.
He had a very good Six Nations. A couple of man of the match performances. I'd say definitely Ken Owens. Wyn Jones has had a good. He had a very good Six Nations and he had a good game in one of the games when he played for the Lions. I'd say the Irish guy in the back row, is it Byrne?
Oh, Ty Byrne, yeah.
He's had a very good Six Nations as well, and he scored a couple of tries. I think he scored 3 tries, didn't he? In the 2 games that he's played. I think he's got a very good chance. Obviously you've got Curry, but then you've got Watson. Watson has shown his South African doubters that he's not a little small man. He's a very good player. One interesting thing that you wouldn't have heard is that when I was in the Lake District this week, the place that I was staying at is Jamie Ritchie's cousin. And he was saying that obviously he didn't make it. He was just, he was one of the ones that a few of the guys predicted would be on the tour. Back row, had a very good season with Scotland, very good Six Nations. He was on the fringe. And he basically was saying that in training, Finn Russell is on a different level. And this is like one of their, he's a top player. And he says the stuff that he does in training is on another level to what, and this, this guy's a good player. He was down training, he said, with him, even when you're away, I think he took a break of a week or two, after the Six Nations. But even when you're in off season, he had to put on a top, do his training. He's got GPS tracker, so they knew exactly what he was doing, and then get sent then his training regime for the following day on what his performance was the day before, kind of thing. So it's obviously very technical, but he was just saying it's just something that surprised me, because I know that Russell's a good player and there's always a mistake in him, but he was saying that in training, he said he's something else. He's just, I suppose, you play for Barcelona and you're Xavi or you're Iniesta, you're world class, but you're playing with Messi. And you see Messi in training, and he was saying it was like that. He says the guy's on a different level. So it would have been nice. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of his. I would have had bigger. I would have taken Sexton. I know they're very similar. We had that debate a while ago. But for a solid test player, you can't have a player who's a maverick, who's got a mistake in him. But I might look at him now in a different light from next season.
Yeah.
Only because I've kind of like had a bit of an insight into, an insider's story of how great he is in the Scotland camp. I'll kind of watch him a bit more than what I've done before, if you know what I mean. But so it's a shame that he's not in the mix at the moment.
Yeah, no, I think since he's broken into the Scotland team, he's had that sort of thing about him of he could be a really special player for them, but he's still quite young, isn't he? So I think when you're younger in your career, you do probably have a few more mistakes in you, but in training, it might be a case of the things he's trying to pull off that are sort of missed passes or sort of kicking it straight into one of their backs hands and he's running it in 40 yards for a try. Those things might be coming off in training a bit more because there's less pressure on him. I think you maybe, sometimes you have boxers in the gym who look like world-class fighters, been training and that, every time they're sparring, they're working the world champion over, but sort of when they're under the lights and they've got the crowd roaring them on, they never can make that sort of, or it might sort of get to them a little bit. I'm not saying anything like that. I think I'm trying to compare apples and oranges there, to be honest with you now. But yeah, he's, I don't know if I'd have taken him either, to be honest with you. Like you say, if you'd have taken Sexton as well, you've got bigger Sexton and Farrell. You've got sort of two that are very similar and three that you want to take sort of another kind of fly off, don't you? So based on the Six Nations. Yeah, someone like Callum Sheedy, maybe. I thought he might have been a D6. He's a different kind of. I know he's really young. He hasn't played that much for Wales. I think, is it Bath or Gloucester he's at?
Well, it's
one of the English. He's been playing really well. I think he's moving back to
Bristol.
Bristol, yeah. I think he's moving to the Scarlets or the Ospreys before the next season. I think he's signed a central contract now. So.
It's interesting you mentioned him when you've got Gatland out there and he hasn't picked Sheedy and he's picked a young English guy. But it's,
I think when that young English lad, when they found out he'd been called up as well, he was in the middle of playing a test against Canada for England as well. So that must have been quite a. They might have told them before actually. But it must have been quite a shock coming off the pitch. Like, pack up, you need to get on a plane. You're going to South Africa. You got your passport.
Yeah, pack your bags. Oh, I thought I played pretty well. You're off to the Lions. But no, I don't know. I think. They've obviously taken him as a game changer if there's 20 minutes to go or whatever. But my thought on the first bit that I think, well, if you've got a very good player like Ricky saying, look, this guy's on another level, you would have thought that he would have said the same thing about Hogg, because Hogg does it in the games. So if he's and Hogg's going to try stuff in practice that he doesn't try in games. Whereas if he's saying, look, Russell is on another level, give it another couple of years, and like this Marcus Smith looks like he's on another level. Callum Sheedy, he's trying things in games that people like Bigger or Sexton or Farrell, they haven't got the talent. They haven't got the X factor. These other guys, they've got that X factor to make the break, to kick a ball off the side of their foot, which is going in the opposite direction, and nobody knows it's going to happen apart from the winger, silly things like that. They've got that. So it'd be interesting. I hope that Smith, Marcus Smith, and I hope he gets, an actual stab at it, just to show. I know he's English, so we shouldn't be saying that, but good luck to the guy. I hope he does. I hope he has a a good tournament. It'd be good for him to actually see, a Jonathan Davis character, somebody that can beat people, because it's getting a bit boring. Pass it out to the centre, whack the guy, like Bundyaki, massive legs on him, Tuolangi for England, Jamie Roberts for Wales, pass it in, crash ball, get it out, crash ball, pass it out to Josh Adams, try. Yeah, it's good, but you want to see a bit of a sidestep. You want to see a bit of action as opposed to it just being phase after phase after phase. They've gained 30 yards. They've had 9 phases, but nobody's actually beaten them, man. Yeah. So it's good to see these new guys coming through. Johan Lloyd, he plays in England. He's meant to be a bit of a handful, because he's really young. He might even, I don't even know whether he's 20, but he'll be there or thereabouts in the next year or two. So it's exciting times, for all the nations to have these. I think there's a fullback in Ireland. I can't think of his name. He hasn't been picked. Is it Jared something? He's young, he's small, but he's a dancer. He's very good. A bit like Hogg. And he came on a couple of times in the Six Nations. He might have even started one. And because obviously Rob Kearney now has, had to pass the baton on. And there was a winger as well in Ireland, youngster. And they got fast feet, like a Shane Williams character or an Anthony Watson. And you want to see those characters as opposed to the 6'4", 17-stone centres or a George North. You want to see people who can beat people. It's exciting. So to see these guys coming through, for me, it's, great. Get them in and let's see them in the Lions. Let's see what they can do against what's the winger for the Colby? It's Colby. He plays for the Lions on the wing. Plays for South Africa on the wing. He was superb in the World Cup. He scored lots of tries.
Should have looked this up.
Sure, his name's Colby. Something Colby or Colby something. Very good player. And he scored a couple of tries. He was like 6 yards out. He had the winger to beat, and he literally in-out, poof, his try. And he was class. To see a lot more people like them, it makes it more exciting. Your Brian Habanes. It's kind of gone out the game in the last 5-6 years. But it's starting to come back with that cycle.
Cheslin Colby. I'm looking it up. Yeah, he plays for Toulouse, doesn't he?
Yeah, fantastic player. And he can beat somebody with 5 yards to go, like Watson's done a couple of times, in and out, like what Jason Robinson used to do for the Lions in England. 1 against 1, 5 yards out, show somebody a yard, cut inside, and you're there. 2 yard, powerful, and you're over. We've been missing that, but I think it's coming back. You go through the cycle. You had that 7-8 years where Wales were dominant. It was Jamie Roberts, Jonathan Davis. And it was a case of Roberts coming in at an angle, a crash ball, taking out 2 players, leaving an extra man on the wing. And, Wales won the Grand Slam 1 year for it. He played fantastic for the Lions when they beat Australia. 30-odd points in that ridiculous game where they smashed them. He was, the linchpin in that game plan. And it worked then. But it's good when you're winning against, but it's boring when you've got him running against Tuolangi and it's like, 2 forces meeting and, it's immovable and it was getting boring. And I think it's coming back now. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the Northern Hemisphere side's a few, for as long as I've watched rugby anyway, it has been a bit more of that sort of playing through the phases and watching Wales as well, especially under Gatland. We've sort of built on a solid defensive game, so keeping your lines set. Everyone's got their man, so the red wall, no one gets through. You look at New Zealand, for example, over the years, I think one of their mantras playing rugby is, look after the pill, protect the ball. So that's the most important thing. That's what you score the points with. Makes sense. And I think you look at some of their players like Jonah Lomu, Dan Carter, the real flair players they've had over the years, they've been able to do those game-changing moments like the little side step and then sort of acceleration over 10, 15 yards, beat the man and then sort of finish 40 yards and sort of stick it under the post with everyone blowing out their arse trying to chase you down and tackle you. But I think with the exciting young players we've got coming through now in this Lions side, you think of like Louis Rees-Zammit, 20 years old, 19 years, 20 years old, so absolute speedster, like we've said on previous shows, just so fast. And when you can bring players like that into the game, like we seem to be, I don't know how much so we are playing like what they call the regional sides now, the provinces, that's what they say, isn't it, on the top post, isn't that? So, it's going to be different in the actual test matches, but if they can sort of keep this flair in the backs going up. But you look at the forwards, sort of the modern rugby forward, they're not just there to sort of be, well, even props, for example, nowadays, they're not just there to sort of be holding the hooker up in the scrum and be tackling the big forwards who are running with the ball out of the ruck and whatnot. Sort of you see in like Ellis Genge, for example, he's a bit of an arsehole, to be honest, but fantastic hands. Reece Carey as well, the young Welsh lad, I think he's got a bit of a few issues with his discipline, but phenomenal hands for a forward, really good foot speed as well for a 18, 20 plus star. I'm not too sure what these guys are weighing stone, but they're not exactly light. And if you can I wouldn't be able to sidestep if I was that size, I'd be on my arse. I'm just intrigued to see how Gatland's going to set the side up for the first test. I think a few of the positions are probably set, but it'll be how they play again. Is it they got 2 games, or is it just the South Africa game before the first test match now?
To be fair, because I've been away for a few days, I haven't really looked, but there can't be much coming up now.
There's 1 or 2 left before the first test starts, because they've played quite a lot already, haven't they?
Yeah. It's interesting because I said there's so many. The strength and depth is good, and I think it is good because I don't think South Africa have got anywhere near that strength in depth. That we've got like for like in pretty much every position. So I'm not sure, but I presume they'll play 3 tests on 3 Saturdays in a row. That's what normally happens, and then they'll have the midweek game. But I think with the strength in depth is crucial because if you're playing on the Saturday, the following Saturday, the South Africans I would have presumed pretty much will, if they don't get any injuries, they've got 6 days, then they've got the next test and the next test, and I presume they'll play pretty much the same side every game. Whereas the Lions, they could have, you've got all positions have got great players times 2. So, in one game they could have, Zammit and Adams. On the next game, they could have Watson and Van der Merwe. And that's literally like for like. You can't, it's a toss-up between them. You could have Hogg one week, you could have Liam Williams the next week. Scrum half, not so much. Outside half, not so much. They're not world class. They're very good. Ali Price is in the mix. Gareth Davis has played well. He's 4th choice Welsh scrum half. After Rhys Webb, Kieran Hardy, Thomas Williams, because of injuries, they haven't been in. So you've got your 4th choice Welsh scrum half who is making a case for a Lions test. So there's competition, and with the backs, there's that many. You've got Itoji. If Alan Wynne-Jones comes back, you've got Henderson. You've got so many players where South Africa haven't got that. So I think they'll play the first test, whatever way it goes, but then 7 days later, we could have just a stronger side with 8-9 players who have been rested for a week and a half, where the South Africans have played 6 days before. And I think for the second and third test, that'll be a huge difference, psychologically, physically, mentally, in every way you can think. That's my opinion of how the test could go. First test toss-up, you don't know because you don't know how strong the South Africans are going to be or how well the Lions are going to knit. But to be playing week after week, I think it's a big plus for the Lions, for me.
Yeah, definitely. The only thing I might say is some of the rotation, because it's it's not like they've been playing the same 15 week in, week out or over the sort of course of the games, but that's not what these games are for, is it? It's you try a few different things, you see who works together in the partnership, you see how the different systems work with the different players. But you've got to imagine that there's enough strength and depth in that squad that if it doesn't work in the first game, there's enough players there to switch it up a bit. Like you said, there's probably 250. can't remember how many men are in the squad, but you've probably got at least 2 starting 15s. Maybe Murray and Bigger are staying in. So you've got sort of 2 13 players, interchangeable to put around them. That's like City in the Premier League at the minute, to link it to football there. When you have that strength and depth, you're going to be expected to win to it. But, the players who, some of them might sort of know each other because they might play club rugby together. I know a few of the Scottish lads I know one of them plays for Gloucester, a few of them play around England as well, so they might sort of know each other from that. But it's always relying on them being able to sort of make those partnerships, because if you're playing playing with someone week in week not I know they don't play week in week out for like Wales or England, but play quite regularly with the various international windows and that. It's like with football, isn't it? The sort of different angles for the passes, when people are going to be making those. It becomes a second nature when you drill these moves that often in training. But
if you've had a month,
professional rugby players, they'd be able to adapt to it. Yeah. Is what I was just going to.
Exactly. If you've had a month, you've pretty much had 4 or 5. I think they were in camp 2 or 3 weeks.
Good month before the start of the tour. Yeah.
Yeah, because they played Japan. They played what was the other? They played 2 games in the UK, didn't they? They played Japan, and they played. Did they play the USA, or did they play? They played 2 games of Barbarians. No, they didn't. Or did they play? They played 2 games. But whoever they played, they played.
The Japan one was ages ago now, wasn't it? And exactly. The squad was like they're in camp for ages before that.
They had like a 4
first game. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks before a test, and you're pretty much training 5 days a week, and you've got your passing moves, you've got your different calls in the line out, so it's not going to take you that long. So they should. By then you should be ready. As you said, that you're a test player, you play for your country. That many weeks of practicing day in, day out, it will become second nature. Even more than playing for your country, because when you play for your country, you don't have anywhere near 6 to 8 weeks before Six Nations. So it'll be interesting. I don't know what else there is to talk about in the next few weeks, because there's no football on now until August. There's now Wimbledon's finished. There's only the Lions, and Fury against Wilder's called off until October. I don't think there's much more boxing on.
I think Pacquiao and Errol Spence Jr. is creeping up on us, but is it a week or 2 away?
It's a few weeks away, isn't it?
Because I think they had the first stare down yesterday or the day before, so that's coming up to. But I think that's in August, isn't it? So.
To be fair, because I say it's creeping up on us. I haven't even looked, but yeah, that'll be a good one to talk about. But yeah, it's obviously the.
Did you catch any of the UFC over the? I know you're away, but Conor McGregor was having his rematch against Dustin Poirier. The third fight, sorry, not a rematch.
That's all I saw. Obviously, it was the first round, wasn't it? Or was it the second round?
It was only end of the first round. Snapped his ankle completely.
Again, obviously, you know a lot more about it than me. As an outsider looking in, genuinely, I just think he's a hype. It's a hype job. He's for somebody that doesn't know a lot about it, but obviously follows loads of boxing. And it's the similar concept, but you've got other things involved as well. I just think that he's. I'm just trying to think of another analogy, another sport where he's talked his way into a world title fight over a period of 5 years. He's got himself a brand because of his mouth. He's lost numerous occasions. He had his arse handed to him by Floyd Mayweather. He lost against that Nate Diaz.
Khabib absolutely took him to the cleaners and probably prolonged that fight by a round as well, because he just hates McGregor that much. He wanted to kick his ass for another 5 minutes. So.
Yeah, so there's that. He's lost against that Dustin Poirier twice, isn't he?
He lost twice, yeah.
He's lost quite a few fights, but he talks like he's a cross between Lionel Messi, Muhammad Ali, and Roger Federer. And if you're going to talk that amount of shit, then you have to have something to back it up. And he's made loads of money from basically he's made more money from the actual press conferences and belittling his opponents than actually when he gets in the ring, and when he's being, you know, choked out, he's tapping within a couple of seconds. It just doesn't look like he's got any fight in him compared to some of the other UFC fights that I've seen of various weights. And he's calling out this person and he's calling out that person. And fair play, he's done really well because he's made a load of money, but it's a show as opposed to actually backing it up with proper fighting. That's an outsider looking in. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I think when the UFC being one company that controls the interests of all the fighters and all these divisions, when it's Dana White and sort of 2 or 3 other people doing a lot of the matchmaking and sort of organising the contracts and that, they're always going to have their favourites. And at the end of the day, he's in that business to make money. Conor McGregor has attracted so much attention, especially in Europe, I'd have to say. Mm-hmm. He's probably tenfold, maybe even 100-fold grown the viewing figures, and the people that tune into MMA in the UK now. I mean, you've got Bellator, which is a bit like a secondary promotion, but that's been taken up by BBC iPlayer now, so that's free if you pay your license fee, of course. But yeah, I think he just got caught in a bit of a perfect storm on his way up because he's a good fighter. I'll give him that. He's a good striker. I wouldn't say he's a good mixed martial artist. He's a very, very technical striker. Or he was as a featherweight, I'd say. I think his power hasn't translated up to lightweight, and maybe a little bit when he fought Eddie Alvarez, but when he went up to welterweight to fight Nate Diaz, I mean, Nate Diaz is hard to finish anyway. He's a bit like a zombie who just keeps walking forward. So no matter how much you hit him, he's bleeding with all the scar tissue.
I watched that fight. Yeah, crazy.
That was brilliant. I was, for the first one, I was the only person in the pub in real rooting for McGregor, actually. So quite a rough pub as well. So I sort of snuck out while he was sinking the rear naked choke. And I was like, I don't want to be around for the aftermath. But yeah, I think a lot of people were saying in the second Poirier fight, you could tell he'd just been focusing on boxing. He was chasing the fight with Manny Pacquiao at the time. And then this one with Poirier sort of fell into his lap because they were going to do a charity thing to raise money for both the charities.
Yes.
And then the UFC were like, oh, no, we'll just do it. You're both in the lightweight division. You both ranked in the top 5 or so. We'll do it as a thingy. And then Poirier beat him. Poirier should have fought for the belt after that. I have no doubt in that. He still, in my opinion, is the top lightweight in the UFC. No offense to Charles Oliveira.
Who would he have fought for that?
He should have fought Charles Oliveira for that, the Brazilian guy who currently holds the title. He's the submission leader in the UFC. I think he's had 18 finishes by submission.
Okay.
I think he's a 2 or 3 time gold medalist in the IBJJF, the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation. So really high level grappler, but he's worked on his striking quite a lot. And he's not your sort of atypical MMA brawler. He's sort of very composed and calm, sort of hit and not get hit. Control the distance and range. No, not yet. No. That's the thing with the lightweight, that there'd be a lot of good fights to make in this. He beat a guy called Michael Chandler for that belt. He's another example of a guy who's sort of, you can make the case that he talked his way into that title fight, but he's been a champion in Bellator before on 2 or 3 separate occasions. Mm-hmm. He's an elite lightweight mixed martial artist, I have to say, but he's more of a wrestling base. And if you want to go back and watch that fight, actually, Oliveira versus Chandler, that's a really good one. That only lasts 2 rounds. It was very back and forth. But between the second and third, McGregor and Poirier fights, McGregor went back to his more sort of kickboxing, side-on karate type stance. Whereas in the second fight, you could tell he'd been training boxing for 2-3 years straight. He was sort of guarder, very heavy on his lead leg, not bouncing around, sort of very square to Poirier. That's how Poirier fights as well. Fundamentally, he's a boxer, so sort of that square stance. And he was just teeing off on the leg kick. And it's a bit like how Conor beat Diaz in the second fight. Diaz is a southpaw who does not change his stance even if you snap his right leg off. He kicked away at his leg and kicked away at his leg, swole up, blood got heavy in it, hard to move on, takes his movement away, can't manage the range as well. That's eventually how he took him the distance and beat him. He adjusted his style slightly in the third fight. He came out throwing a few more of his awkward kicks. One of the things I was always most impressed with Conor is range kicking. He's very good at popping that teep front kick out. Sort of, it's a nasty little kick to take in your abdomen, actually, because it's just like a little sharp stab and it pushes you back. He's very good with the side kick. He can use that to measure his range, to come in with punches, or if he's being pressured back against the cage, because it's a push kick, it's very good to manage range and create distance for yourself.
Yeah.
He's always good at finding the head with that left hand as well. Yeah, everyone saw how he slapped Jose Aldo in 13 seconds, and
Yeah.
Aldo got a lot of criticism after that because no one ever saw him fight before he joined the UFC for some reason, and remembers he was one of the most terrifying featherweights in the world when McGregor beat him. But again, that was a case of Conor getting into Jose Aldo had never been disrespected like that in mixed martial arts. Being Brazilian, they had, gym rivalries and that back in the day, but fundamentally when McGregor came into the sport, it was very much still all about respect. And, at the end of the day, the two people going into the cage and knocking 7 shades of shit out of each other. So there should be a bit of mutual respect there. Same there is a lot of the time in boxing, but you'd had a couple of fighters try to sort of build fights with the trash talk and that. I think my favourite one doing that was a guy called Chael Sonnen. Didn't really take it to the extremes that McGregor did ever. He was more of your like pro wrestling heel type character, but again, just a decent fighter, good wrestler with a decent overhand right, as most wrestlers in the UFC of that era were, not very technical strikers, but he talked his way into title fights. And one of the best lines gave him a title fight, Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck. I think about 4 weeks later, he was signing on the dotted line, and 8 weeks later, he was dominating Anderson and then got triangled in the last few seconds of the 5th round, which is quite a shame. But yeah, I think as I've just rambled on and gone about several tangents from, McGregor just caught the wave of a perfect storm. MMA has been one of the fastest growing sports over the last 20 years. And looking at how much it's changed in, not 20 years, sorry, 30 years now, we're in the 2020s, aren't we? Look, if you look at how more technical that sport's got in the time, I think it's just caught up with people like McGregor. Same in I think it happens to a lot of boxers in boxing. They'll be so far ahead of the competition.
Yeah.
And then they take time away and they take time away and the field catches up with them.
Yeah.
Floyd Mayweather's probably one of the few people where it hasn't. I know he picks and chooses his fights now because he's very smart and astute businessman in that sense, but he was able to take 2 or 3 years, or maybe like a year or two between fights, but he'd be training every day. He's not really out there running businesses, sort of building his whiskey brand, beating up old men in pubs, getting accused of various crimes, And some of the stuff he said after the fight towards Dustin Poirier and his wife as well, that's completely unacceptable. He should have had the entire purse taken away for what he said.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
And if they make that 4th fight, not a bloody chance am I buying it. I didn't buy the last one, to be honest. I had work on the morning, but shameful. It's just, if you're going to lose. The other times McGregor's lost, in fairness to him, even the Khabib fight where that big brawl broke out after the fight ended, he was very dignified and lost. He was very respectful. They had a lot of animosity between them. They were never going to be friends afterwards.
No.
I'd say he conducted himself with a good amount of decency after that. In this one, not at all.
But you also you mentioned that Khabib fight when the one he went mad and then he threw the chair against the bus.
That was in the build up to that one, because he wanted the title fight.
Exactly. So all those you put all those things together and compare all the hype of everything compared to what he's actually done in the ring. He's won I say that Aldo fight, it was all this is his most dangerous opponent, and he used a left hand, a straight left hand. The guy comes running in, bang. There's always an element of luck. And he's caught him bang on the nose or bang on the chin, just below the nose with the left, and it's the guy's run into it. If he hadn't run in and stopped or took a right move, it could have been you just don't know. It could have been a different story. Yeah. But he's lost so many fights. But the way that he talked, and you mentioned, about Poirier and saying he was misses after the fight. It's just the guy's an idiot, and I can't. It's funny sometimes when he's sitting there with his big glasses on and his sharp suit and he's giving it the lads. And to be fair, it's quite funny. But you can't. how can I explain it? It's good entertainment, but when it gets in the ring and you can't back it up, and then 10 weeks later you're back with your suit on and you're giving it large again, and then you lose again, you can't be taken seriously, because he's going to come back after his broken leg in a few months' time. Either he's going to retire or he'll come back in 6 months and goes, oh, I did it myself. My weight went back on my ankle and I broke my ankle. That wasn't a win. I want to fight you again. And then he'll be giving it large again. But he's lost that many times that he's going to be a laughing stock, as opposed to, I don't know. I just think he's a bit of a laughing stock.
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, he's just talked himself into a corner at this point. The shtick is sort of wearing off. I mean, I think there's like in MMA to sort of sell yourself to a lot of the more fringe casual fans, if you'd call them that. A lot of fighters do create these sort of personalities to sort of sell a few more tickets and get a few more followers. I know Colby Covington did his whole MAGA Donald Trump wearing the red hat thing, and he's the people's champion and whatnot. And, it's a case of, okay, yeah, but when he's no longer president, what are you going to do for you? He still does that, and it's quite sad, really. But the other thing I'd say about McGregor, I think, I'm not saying he's not got good coaches or anything like that, but to a point, I think at the minute he's just surrounded by yes men. And you look at how that affected Ronda Rousey when she got knocked out by Holly Holm, came back, got starched by Amanda Nunes. Conor McGregor is fully in charge of every aspect of his career. That includes his training camp. No, come on, mate. You look at Kamaru Usman, in my opinion, he's the pound for pound best fighter in the world at the minute. Been with two phenomenally highly touted gyms. He's currently with a guy called Trevor Whitman, probably the best striking coach in mixed martial arts. Usman comes from a wrestling base. He was an NCAA Division I wrestler throughout college. I think it was Division I. So he sort of brought the striking into his game plan later in his career. And he's knocked out Jorge Masvidal in his last fight, one of supposedly the best boxers in the UFC. And he knocked him out with a bloody jab. So he's not in charge of his camp. He leaves it to the people who know what they're doing to create you a game plan for the fight, drill the specific situations that you're going to need, that you're going to find yourself. Conor, for some reason, was trying to cling onto a guillotine choke on a person who's been a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt for at least 5 or 6 years, and whose main submission attacks are guillotines and Darce chokes. It's not the brightest thing to do. Same as I think as well, some people noticed the first and third fights, the opening sequence of kicks was exactly the same between those two fights. Do you think Dustin Poirier's got short-term memory loss or something? He can't remember sort of your movement patterns and that. He's going to have been watching those tapes every day leading up to that fight. And in a sense, they fought each other twice back to back. So first one was in January, it's July now. I think the fight was announced November, December time. So they've had 6-7 months specifically training for each other. And Poirier's done the better work in that show, and he's deserved both of his wins. And anyone who argues that obviously doesn't know their ass from their head.
Fair play. Well, that's the UFC taken care of. So we'll have to have a think about next week what to actually talk about, because I don't think there's a lot going on apart from the Lions. So we'll have to have a think. That was Randolph and Martin's Friday Night Sports Talk. Hopefully it's a good listen, and we'll see you next Friday at 5 o'clock. Good to talk to you, Mart, and see you next week.
Good stuff, mate. Have a good one. Speak to you next week.
Cheers, Mart.